gentlemen, welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets. Now here are your hosts, Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes. Listen safely.
Can't wait.
Welcome into the winter solstice edition of the Can't Wait podcast. It is Tuesday, December 21st, the shortest day of the year. Hey, everyone. Tim McMaster here along with Connor Hughes and a morning Marissa Morris, who is having a tough time, but she'll get past the Browns game on Monday night. Hopefully,
really rough.
Rally past the difficult Browns game. Obviously, they pushed it to the limit despite being so shorthanded and lost it right at the end. But we're going to talk about the Jets. We're going to talk about Zach Wilson. Report card for last weekend. We're going to talk about this upcoming game because it's Jaguars Jets. Should the Jets, do we want them to win? Do we not want them to win? It's a good question. But we're going to start with the defense as long as Marissa assures us that she's okay.
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. I'm excited to, talk to you two this morning and hopefully start my day off well.
Hey,
positive
Michael
Connor,
played well,
right?
Michael
Yes.
played well. Yeah,
Michael
positive Kano was getting death threats during the game yesterday, so we should probably stay away from positive Kano.
Wait, but I thought that was during the next game. Or that was during the day yesterday. That wasn't.
No, I got that
When
in my
was that?
DMs after the game, after the whatever you call it game.
I want to make
And,
it very
one
clear
of
to
ours
all
was
listeners.
salty the next day.
I want to make it very clear to all listeners. No one can be mean to Connor but me. And if you're gonna be mean to Connor,
that's gonna go over well.
if you're gonna be mean to Connor, you have to go through me first.
Yeah, that's gonna be
okay?
great. Oh,
Yeah.
you don't want those mentions.
You don't.
I get it. Like people are
You
like,
don't want to mess with me. Trust me.
We'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk about. Yeah, really. But Dunn played well, and I think that's all. You can we were all watching it. It's funny though, the way that the Michael Dunn hype train is kind of expanded now because obviously you guys were at my wedding, and so all of my friends got a chance to meet him. My family got a chance to meet him and things like that. At one point, he lifted Bree's grandmother, who's on a walker, lifted her up and carried her onto the bus to get to the after party and then placed her down. If I'm not mistaken, he then lifted her back up and took her off of the bus. So, I mean, he's a good guy. Everyone loved him at the wedding and everything like that. So when he was starting, I knew he was starting because we had talked to you because I saw this Brown shit hit. And obviously the first thing I did was send in our group chat, hey, does this mean Dunn's up? And you were like, yeah, it looks like it. So I was like, sweet, it's going to be fun to watch the game. Michael's in there again. And then what was funny was right as the game started, I was running I had gone to the gym and stuff like that and come home and I took a nap too before the gym. So I was pretty lazy yesterday. But I looked down, I had a text message from two of my best friends from home. And one of them, and the only time they've ever met you is at my wedding. They don't know you. There's no connection. It's not like they worked out together or anything like that. I look down at my phone. It's text from my best friend. He goes, holy shit, Michael Dunn's in the starting lineup. So it's everyone, they see this kid's name, and he's got a fan group now all the way down into South Jersey. So it was cool. And, obviously I know the first couple snaps were a little rough. Obviously, shaking off the rust or whatever. And they got him on a stun or something like that. But after the game, afterwards, he started. He found his rhythm. He started playing really good football. It's probably the only time that I've singled out an offensive lineman just to watch him play. And to watch Dunn, not only go out there to play well was really cool. You know what I mean? And the sweep that they ran to Chubb on their first touchdown where they got him out there and he was pulling and running down. There was one time they ran a screen to Njoku where he was the leading blocker as well. Pancaked someone because I immediately sent our group chat pancake Michael Dunn and got up and was complaining because the referee didn't throw a flag on what did look like a late hit to Njoku. It's cool to see him out there and having success, especially when you know his story, when you know his journey, when you know what the two of you together have been through. It's pretty awesome to see him having that success. And the fact he's 27, he's still in the prime of his career. I thought he was older. I thought he was like me, 29, but apparently Marissa likes dating him a little younger than her. So it was
he's literally 6 months younger than me. But yeah, I'm very proud of him. Obviously, it was a very, very disappointing loss. But, there was a lot of guys that stepped up yesterday and, they were down 19 active roster players, which is just wild. So to be in that game takes, a full team effort. And I'm happy he was part of it. And there's a lot of guys that deserve credit. So we'll see how this AFC playoff picture is going to pan out because, it is really jumbled. That's for sure.
I will say the one, and this isn't a Browns podcast. You guys have one of those, so you can talk about all this there. But I do genuinely believe that Callahan needs an absurd that offensive line coach. I mean, his reputation
he's great.
precedes him wherever he goes. I mean, he was here with the Jets and helped build a dominant offensive line here. Obviously, he was a train wreck as a head coach, replacing John Gruden in Oakland. But he is like, when you look at what he's done with these guys, not only just the offensive line that the Browns have, but then when they lose these pieces and you can have players like Michael Dunn come in. I mean, we were talking about his PFF grade. I mean, he's got it. He was he was like the highest graded offensive lineman when he started last year against the Steelers. This was a guy that had never played in the NFL before, plucked off an XFL roster, was in the training camp, practice squad training camp, came out against the Steelers, and it wasn't even like they didn't skip a beat. I mean, there was like a legitimate, he's replacing a Pro Bowl player, and there was literally no drop off in production. And now, like, even this week against a decent Raider defensive line, I mean, that's a decent defensive front from them.
Well, so actually it was pretty cool because he got to go up against Quentin Jefferson and Yannick Ngakoue, who we went to college with. So
great. Yannick's a Maryland guy.
Yannick and Quentin Jefferson. So he went against Quentin Jefferson the entire game, which was pretty cool, to see these kids 5-6 years out of Maryland and still getting to play against each other in the NFL. So he was, took a picture with Quentin after the game. So that was pretty cool.
They jersey swap?
I don't think they did. I don't know what the COVID rules
Can you jersey swap with me? Can Michael jersey swap with me? Can I get, actually, no lie. Can I get a Michael Dunn jersey? Everyone always asks me that. Like, can I get a Michael Dunn jersey? Is that possible to get one of them?
I think they're available in the pro shop.
I'll tell his dad to
I want it signed. I want it signed. Like, I need a signed Michael Dunn jersey. That's actually something that I do want. I keep meaning to say that. But no, like I said, Callahan, like, this is a guy in Dunn. Like, he's obviously spent time developing him over the last 2 years. Kid steps in with basically no NFL experience. Obviously got hurt his final year in college. 72.6 overall PFF grade. I know people can say, like, what you want about PFF. I mean, when it comes to offensive line play, I look at it and I use it as a means to know if this guy sucks, this guy's not good. 72.6 overall grade, 72.5 in pass block, 69.2 in run block. He did not allow a quarterback hit, pressure, or sack throughout that entire game. And it's a testament to obviously Dunn developing, but it's also a testament to Callahan. And I remember when the Jets were piecing together their coaching staff with Adam Gase, Costello and I talked a lot about this, about how they should have just gone out there and given Callahan whatever money he wanted. And there would have been some pride swallowing that needed to happen, because I know that there was Callahan didn't leave the Jets on good terms. I know that, so there would have been some pride swallowing that would have had to happen, but that's nothing that a little checkbook can't change. I would have gone out there and given him whatever he wanted, and obviously the Browns did, and you're starting to see the results of it, because you can lose Pro Bowl quality players, and then you can have a feel-good story like Dunn step in. And it's not just like the fact that he's playing, but he's out there and he's playing really, really, really well.
And shout out to Joel Bitonio, who actually pushed out to left tackle, has not played there since college. And I think he had a 90 PFF grade playing at left tackle. And he has actually just got voted into the Pro Bowl yesterday as well, at left guard, obviously. So I mean, it's lots of compliments to go around, but
love Marissa spreading the wealth around, not accepting the praise.
Yes,
like,
I gotta
everybody was part of it.
Yeah, it's a team effort. Got to be about the team. That's all that matters.
At a 72.6 offensive blocking grade, right? 72.6 blocking grade. That would make Michael Dunn, if he were on the Jets, their second best offensive lineman. Their second highest graded offensive lineman behind Connor McGovern's is 75.5. So if Michael Dunn was on the Jets, he'd be their second and did what he did against the Raiders throughout the course of the season. He would be their second graded offensive lineman as a 27-year-old guard that they found off the XFL. And obviously, like, again, it's apples to oranges, because the coaching that he's getting there is different than the coaching he was getting here. I don't know. I mean, I've seen Michael on the dance floor, so I know he's got nimble feet and all that stuff, but I don't know how he's going to fit into his zone blocking scheme. But I think that, like, it's a cool story, and who knows? I mean, when's his contract up? Are you under contract for one more year, or is he a free agent this year?
I don't know how it works. You're like ERFA. I don't. That's
he's ERFA, so he'll be back. So he's not going to hit free agency. All right, so he'll be back.
I leave that all. Maybe Jets go. He's got a great agent, so I leave all that up to
Canner, right?
Yes.
He was at the Dolphin game because he retweeted my thing about that proposal.
Yes,
but who knows? Maybe he's a free agent target. I mean, look, Joe obviously Jet fans are going to be like, no, when I use this name, but Joe took a chance on a guy who got a little bit of a starting experience with Greg Van Roten, who we thought, kind of late bloomer. And obviously Greg just aged very, very quickly and lost all that athleticism. But who knows? Maybe when Dunn's a free agent, the Jets go make a run. They worked him out. Mike McCagnon chose not to sign him, so you can add that to the blunder up there, like they're drafting, all the draft blunders, add not signing Michael Dunn to top that list.
Yeah,
All right. So
and that will do it for our Browns segment of the Jets podcast.
For more Browns content, check out
I think
Civilized Parking.
Not to
also produced by Marissa Morris. But.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the one thing I obviously you're gonna hear it in the YouTube section, I think, where like the YouTube comments are gonna be like, I don't give two shits about the Browns, get this out there, blah blah blah. But when you see like the people that are watching this live on the chat, however many people are watching it right now, you can tell the vast majority of them do care about Dunn, though, because when I sent that tweet out there and I said something like, Michael Dunn and this, when I first started tweeting about Michael Dunn, like after we did, unveiled that he is actually, with you, like I'd still tweet things out anytime Michael did something, and it would get like 5 retweets or like, 10 likes on social media and stuff like that. So you can see like there wasn't like people didn't totally get it yet. I sent that first one out there about, Michael being in the starting lineup. That thing had like 80 or 85 likes right away. And it wasn't because like Zach retweeted and it got to all the Browns people. Like this Jet, like there is the people who know him and know you and listen to the podcast and the people that are listening to this live, like they do care about him and they care about what he does and they care about the success he's having on the field. So it's not like we sat here for the first 15 minutes and talked to Spider-Man.
Well, I'm always grateful for our chat, but especially with the personal connections, it does mean a lot to both of us. So we have amazing listeners, and it's pretty awesome to see, for sure.
All right, on to the Jets we go, and we're going to start. We'll get to Zach Wilson, but we're going to start with the defense, which wasn't good. The Dolphins' offense is not great, and they move the ball on the ground, Connor, and that's the thing, is this run defense. And we'll talk about some of the positives. Brandon Echols, the pick 6, the secondary, this young secondary holding its own. But this team can't stop the run, and that wasn't supposed to be one of the problems with this defensive front.
Yeah, the defensive front was supposed to be the strength, right? And I think that the issue is that like the Jets' defensive line, when they were fully healthy, and everyone was there, when they had Carl Lawson in the mix, and they had a healthy Quinnen Williams in the mix, and they had a healthy John Franklin Myers in the mix, and they had a healthy Bryce Huff in the mix, and they had Sheldon Rankins and Foley Fatukasi and all those guys. They had a defensive line that was believed to be the strength of this team. And it was. I shouldn't say believed. It was the strength of this team. But it was the strength of a bad defense. So the Jets defense was never expected to be very good. I mean, that's why it's like the issues that they're having and the struggles they're having. I mean, we talked about all of this coming during training camp in the offseason and the preseason. I mean, when the Jets were healthy, we're like, all right, hopefully the offense puts up some points and is exciting and scores. But like the Jets, we thought we're going to lose a lot of like 31-28 games, you know what I mean? Or 34-24 games. If the offense would look good, they'd stumble a little bit with Zach because he's a rookie, but the offense would look good, but the defense would just be a disaster, But the one thing that you could hang your hat on with the defense, and one thing you could say like, okay, this would be decent, is they were going to be able to get to the quarterback, and they were going to pressure the passer and get to them, because Sheldon Rankins is a pass rushing defensive lineman. John Franklin Myers, I know he's like that hybrid defensive end, defensive tackle, but he's a pass rusher. Quinnen Williams, more pass rusher than run stuffer on the inside. And then obviously Carl Lawson was expected to take that jump and be the Jets' like dynamic edge setting, double digit routine sack guy that just disrupts and potentially ruins games. Injuries have not only decimated this Jets defense, where Lawson is gone. You got Huff, who's just now coming back. You've got Quinnen Williams playing with basically one shoulder. You've got John Franklin Myers dealing with a bunch of different injuries. You lost Foley to COVID. You not only have a defensive line that's now been ravaged by injuries, but when you think about like the strengths of this group, when you think about what they did well, Tim, they weren't run stuffers. You know what I mean? Like this, now, again, this doesn't excuse allowing basically 200 yards rushing every single game. This isn't an excuse for that. I mean, the Jets have to be better. I mean, it is borderline embarrassing. I mean, it's if you're allowing like 120 yards a game, if you're allowing 130 yards a game, that's like where it's like, okay, yeah, that's bad. That's not good. But it's like, I mean, even, Duke Johnson and the Dolphins, who were absent a bunch of their running backs because Gaskin was out, right? They ran for 183 against the Jets. Duke basically came off the practice squad to run for like 120. And like, seriously, it looked like Duke Johnson was back in high school. I was talking to DJ about that. He said, you can talk about Geno Smith and all the numerous players that have come out of Florida and from there. But like the most famous Florida football player because of what he did in high school is Duke Johnson, which is why you heard them screaming and yelling Duke every time he touched the ball there with Miami. So I think it's a combination right now of the Jets not having players, which we've talked ad nauseum about on this show and in written word on The Athletic multiple times. The Jets don't have the players. The players they did had were not necessarily known as run stuffing guys. Like I said, Rankins, pass rusher, Quinnen, pass rusher, Bryce Huff, pass rusher, John Franklin Myers, pass rusher, Carl Lawson, pass rusher. And then also the injuries that have set in and removed some of these players from the lineup. I mean, Nathan Shepard and is playing a significant role. Kyle Phillips is playing a significant role. You got Ward rotating in there at times. You got guys that probably shouldn't be playing 20, 30 snaps, playing 20, 30 snaps. And we've talked to Ulbrich about this because when you look at the Jets snap count totals and you see Quinnen Williams and you see John Franklin Myers, arguably their two best players, right? Foley's kind of a different anomaly because he's not a pass rusher at all, Foley Fatukasi. He's a guy that is going to stuff the run, right? That's what he does. He's the one true, pure run stuffer that the Jets have. Excluding him, and you're just looking at some of these other guys, like you would think, you want John Franklin Myers on the field a lot. You want Quinnen Williams on the field a lot. The vast majority of the plays. And the way that Jeff Ulbrich and Robert Saleh work is that they don't do that because they want their defensive linemen, when they're on the field, going 100 miles per hour on that one play. And what they believe is that if you have a big-bodied guy like Quinnen Williams playing 60 snaps a game, he's probably only able to go 100 miles per hour on, say, 35 of them. So in the Jets mindset, and this is the Jets philosophy, you have Quinnen Williams play 35 snaps at 100 miles an hour. John Franklin Myers play 100 miles an hour. Kyle Phillips 100 miles an hour. Nathan Shepard 100 miles an hour. And all of those guys going 100 miles per hour will lead to more production than having a guy on the field for all 60 snaps going some 100, some 50, some 60, some 70, and then obviously, like I said, a couple of them at 100. I think the issue, and I have to go back and actually watch the film to see when the vast majority of these gash plays are coming, because I can't tell from the box because you're watching everything happen at that time. But are the Jets getting gashed on the run when Quinnen, John Franklin Myers, and their starters are in there and their big body guys are in there? Or are the vast majority of these runs coming when those guys are off and the Jets are playing Kyle Phillips and they're playing Nathan Shepard? And, we've kind of said, and we've brought this up to Ulbrich and we brought this up to Saleh, where does it really make sense where, yeah, you're right, Quinnen isn't going 100 miles per hour on all 60 of his snaps, because that's just not possible. It's not possible for a defensive lineman to do that, right? So he's only going 100 miles an hour, say, on like 35 of them. We're only going 100 miles per hour on those third down rushes. When if you rotate him you put him on the field for those 35, he's going 100. But is 70% Quinnen Williams better than 100% Nathan Shepard? Is 65% John Franklin Myers better than 100% Kyle Phillips? Like that's what I believe, because when you have these game-changing dominant players, you want them on the field. And dominant probably is a little strong to describe John Franklin Myers. Quinnen Williams is a very, very good player. I wouldn't necessarily describe him as dominant Pro Bowl all-world yet. He can take that step next year. Could certainly be much better when the Jets have more on that defense, like when Carl Lawson's back, or the Jets draft Hutchinson, or the draft Thibodeau or something like that, and they can throw him into the mix. But in my opinion, 70-60% Quinnen's better than Phillips. 70-60% Quinnen is better than Kyle Phillips. So those guys should be on the field all the time. And I wonder if some of these issues that they're having on the ground game, if there are some of these issues where they're getting gashed, is because when they put in, and I have to go back and look, but when they put in their second team at 100%, the drop-off in talent is just enough where Nathan Shepard, the fact he's still on this team is surprising to me. But Nathan Shepard going 100 miles an hour, it doesn't really make a difference if Nathan Shepard isn't good. You know what I mean? And I wonder if that's actually hurting the Jets some.
So we actually haven't taken a lot of questions lately, but I kind of thought this was interesting. This one coming from Jive Turkey in the chat. Do we pay Quinnen Williams or trade him? There, I said it. What are your thoughts on that, Connor?
You don't trade him. That's not going to happen.
But do you pay him?
Yeah, good question. So I'm looking I just brought a PFF because we still have the PFF. I am going to get into it. Like I am going to answer that question just like real quick, because I'm doing my own like little so the run defense grades by the Jets off of that Dolphins game, right? Like the run defense games. Nathan Shepard played 42 total snaps, which is just, it's like Nathan Shepard shouldn't be playing that many snaps. He had a 42.2 Pro Football, and again, Pro Football Focus grades aren't everything, but bringing this up, having not watched the film yet, and just great. Nathan Shepard, 42.2 rush grade. Jonathan Marshall, who probably wouldn't be in there if Foley wasn't hurt, 43.8 pass rush grade. Then you get to Quinnen Williams, who's a 49.2. But again, Quinnen Williams is playing with one shoulder. So I do excuse Quinnen a little bit for the last week and a half of football because, again, he's playing with one shoulder. He's clearly not 100%. He's going to deal with issues. He's going to deal with block shedding. So I exclude him because generally he's a much better player than that. But you go up a little bit higher. Ronnie Blair playing 41 snaps, 53.3 run defense grade. You know, I mean, like these guys just eventually when you get to some of the Jets' better players, I mean, John Franklin Myers, his run defense grade is 82, but John Franklin Myers played 42 snaps. That's the same amount of snaps as Nathan Shepard. Like John Franklin Myers should be up there. He should be playing 50, 60 snaps, 65 snaps. You want him on the field a bunch. And I wonder if like when the Jets just this rotation that they're doing, I understand the thought process of it. Like we just explained, like I get that in my head. The why, all right, it's a right mentality, but it's a mentality that worked in San Francisco because when Bosa came off the field, Eric Armstead came in. When DeForest Buckner came off the field, Solomon Thomas went in. The 49ers had a stretch there from, I think it was like 2015 to 2019, where they drafted a defensive lineman in the first round of the draft, all but like 1 year, right? Like all but 1 year, they drafted a defensive lineman in the first round of draft. So they had, even if the players weren't necessarily worthy of a first round pick and they weren't, you know, all world players, they were still at least some level of competent and some level of good. They were still better than the defensive lineman the Jets are taking Quinnen Williams off for. Better than the defensive lineman they're taking John Franklin Myers out for. And I know Saleh likes to say player A, player Z, you know, the only thing that separates them is opportunity, right? Okay, I get it somewhat, but I wonder if like this thought process that worked in San Francisco because of the talent that they had on that defensive line just is not working because the drop off from the Jets starters to the Jets second string is just so dramatic and so alarming that when it drops off, it's just, it's noticeably bad. I'll go real quick. I'll just bring this up just real quick to see what the overall defensive grades are against the run. So the Jets' lowest graded run defenders, aside from Jared Davis, you got Sheldon Rankins, who's a 30.2. That obviously is very, very bad. Jonathan Marshall, 43.8. Nathan Shepard's down there, 45.2. Jabari Zaninga doesn't really play. Tim Ward, who's played 8 games, obviously 55.1. When you look at the players that are actually grading out pretty well against the run, like plus 60, you got the guys that you would expect to be up there. You've got John Franklin Myers. You've got Shaq Lawson. You've got Ronnie Blair. You have Quinnen Williams as well, obviously with a 60.0 grade. So a lot of these issues, in my opinion, like you look Nathan Shepard down there, 45.2, but Nathan Shepard's still playing 40 snaps. So it's like, to me, that mindset works when you've got the talent to make it work. I don't think the Jets necessarily have the talent to make it work. And
so
now
back
obviously,
to the question.
Yeah.
There was a question in there.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to I wanted to finish off that thought process.
I appreciate the stats, bringing the evidence. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if I was, didn't sleep in today, I probably would have had that more well prepared. But sorry, I had to do that in real time. Apologize, folks.
Where else will you get this honesty?
Yeah, that's a good story though. Maybe that's a Thursday story. I got to see if Allison wants to edit that one.
Connor,
I need to check with Allison after the podcast.
Connor's workshopping his.
Hey, is this Michael? This is Michael calling? Cleveland, Ohio.
That's creepy. No.
Yeah. We start talking about maybe it's Callahan. Maybe bringing in some like, don't you dare talk about the Jets signing my guy Michael Dunn. Don't you dare. All right. No. So here's the thing with Quinnen Williams is you do not trade him, and I would be beyond stunned if the Jets decided to trade him.
Okay, but do you pay him?
That
is the question.
Yeah, I don't think you pay him yet because you don't need to. And Saleh's shown, and he showed it during the Jamal Adams negotiations, that like he's going to pay his guys. Like he was willing to pay John Franklin Myers, right? Franklin Myers was going to be a free agent. He extended him. The Jets still have that 5th-year option though with Quinnen. And if I'm Quinnen Williams, I probably still want to get my breakout year, right? I mean, look at how Leonard Williams got paid. how the amount of money Leonard Williams would have gotten if he had gone into free agency and not gotten the franchise tag originally. He had his breakout year, his double-digit sack year, and he gets a monster contract. Quinnen still hasn't had that monster breakout year yet. He was good last year, showed flashes of being really good, then got hurt. This year has been good this year, shown some flashes of being really good, shown like, you put a few more pieces around him and teams can't necessarily double team him. He'll really take off when he's just seeing one-on-one blocking the majority of the time, but now is hurt too. I think if I'm Quinnen, like the Jets aren't going to give him that $20 million a year, $25 million a year contract yet. That's not happening right now. I think they'll offer him a contract, but it's going to be lowballed. And then if you're Quinnen, it's do you take the lowball or do you keep fighting and negotiating? And for the Jets, I think you're going to see this. You're going to see Quinnen get extended probably. I would let him play on the 5th-year option. I don't see any need to play. I don't like you still have. I just don't see the need yet to go and pay Quinnen. And it's almost, I mean, he's only played, this is his 3rd year, right? So you still has to play his 4th year of his rookie deal. I know you can pay, but like this guy's getting paid after 3 years. That's for quarterbacks. It's not for defensive players. It's for quarterbacks that you want to lock up. So Quinnen still has his 4th-year rookie contract. He still has the 5th-year option. Then the Jets could technically still franchise tag him. So that's 3 years, 2 years of definitive team control, 3 years if they just want to franchise tag him. I don't think Quinnen has shown enough to be like, I want to give this guy $25 million a year. I want to make him the highest paid or one of the highest paid defensive linemen in the NFL. He clearly is a building block piece. He's clearly a piece that Robert Saleh views as incredibly important because he plays that DeForest Buckner 3 technique position that was so valuable for his defenses in San Francisco, almost to be so valuable for Robert Saleh's defenses moving forward. But you don't need to pay him yet when you have this much team control. So no, there's no trading Quinnen Williams because he's still a very good player. Yeah, he's been banged up the first couple of years of his career. That's an issue, but he can still, I still believe in him. I still think he'll find healthy. It's kind of been fluke things where he's gotten hurt by. He's been a good player, not a great player. I think he'll take that next step when you get Lawson back and you put another pass rusher next to him. But as far as paying him, you don't have to pay him yet. You just don't. I mean, if he was on through his 4th year and we were going to the 5th-year option, maybe you think about it. If we were through 5 years, obviously going onto a franchise tag, you definitely think about it. When he's just finishing up year 3 and he's a defensive lineman, you don't have to pay him yet. I mean, and it would be pretty bold for Quinnen to hold out or something like that and try to put himself in the same conversation as the Bosa brothers or things like that because he hasn't been that dominant. He's been a good player who's flashed signs of being really, really good, but he hasn't done it consistently yet. And I don't think he's done enough to like slam his hands down and say, pay me $25 million a year. So no, the Jets aren't going to trade him. No, the Jets don't have to pay him yet. I think it's more of a conversation for next year, like this time next year.
All right, a lot more to get to. We're going to take a short break.
If you're a loyal listener to Can't Wait, you've heard us talk for so long about Magic Spoon because we just love it. Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts about being a kid, but we had to give it up because we realized it was full of sugar and junk that you really shouldn't eat. Until Magic Spoon came along. There are 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, and only 140 calories a serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. And you can build your very own custom bundle, including flavors like cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and maple waffle. So if you want to try it out, go to magicspoon.com/wait to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code WAIT at checkout to save $5 off your order. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/wait and use the code WAIT to save $5 off. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode.
All right. We generally on this podcast lead with Zach Wilson because, hey, he's the number 2 overall pick. He's the quarterback. He's the hopefully future of this team. But we pushed him down a little bit because of the defensive issues. But now it's time to get the report card on Zach Wilson. Connor, he started good. That first touchdown drive, 5 of 5. Overall, the first half, pretty good. He sacked 6 times, holding on to the ball too long. There was progress at times, but 4 completed passes in the second half, which was just bad. Obviously, the Dolphins made adjustments. Wilson and the Jets didn't adjust well on the offensive side of the football. So what kind of a report card, what kind of a grade does Wilson get for that start? His 10th in the NFL.
Yeah, I would say like C+. I don't think it was a B.
Hey, we're in sync this
I don't
time.
think
That's
you could
what I
say,
was gonna
hey, yeah, maybe like C, C plus. I think right around there is probably a fair grade for Wilson. I mean, I will say, like, what's been,
Yep.
you know, like I've covered now like I've said before, like my first full time, when the Star Ledger NJ.com hired me full time was 2016, but I was around the Jets a chunk of 2014 while I was still in college, and a large portion of 2015 when I was in college, or all of 2015 when I was in college, doing practices and home games. Obviously, I couldn't travel because I was in college, but I still covered the Jets partially 2014, a lot in 2015, and then full time starting in 2016. So I've seen like the different waves, and I've gotten to know the fans and things like that. And I've experienced obviously an awful lot of lows. One sort of decent high with the Ryan Fitzpatrick anomaly year, where the Jets went 10-6 and nearly made the playoffs. And I will go down in the boat saying that they would have made a run too if they made the playoffs in 2015, because that was when, if I'm not mistaken, they were going to play the Cincinnati Bengals in the first round in the wild card playoffs. If they had made it, Cincinnati had lost Andy Dalton, so they were going to be playing a backup quarterback. I think it was AJ McCarron, if I'm not mistaken. And then if they won that game, they would have been playing the Patriots, whom they had beat week 16 with the Eric Decker touchdown, and had played them close early in the season. So it was going to be a very, very interesting playoff run for the Jets, or playoff appearance of the Jets, because I think they would have beaten the Bengals. And then if they beat the Bengals, you're going into Foxborough, and anything could happen in a divisional game. Man, that would have been fun. Haven't thought about that in a while. But aside from that, it's been mostly low, right? I never really thought things could get as toxic and just so alarmingly defensive and polarizing as the Adam Gase era. Because with Adam Gase, it got to the point where when he started the first 10 year 1-7, then at any point in year 2, if you made any sort of comment about the reason for why Adam Gase wasn't having some semblance of success as a head coach, you were absolutely just torn apart limb by limb. And it was because Adam Gase was the root of all evil. Adam Gase was the problem for all the Jets. It didn't matter the injuries. It didn't matter roster construction. It didn't matter poor quarterback play. It didn't matter what was happening on defense. Adam Gase was public enemy number one. And if you dared say anything to the contrary, you were ripped apart limb by limb. Last year was the only time in my entire tenure covering the Jets where I turned off my mentions, because it was like you couldn't cover the team. You either had to absolutely destroy this guy's character in every essence, or you were in bed with him. And that's what it was said. And it was like, it was so frustrating that I and many members of the beat were just like turning off the mentions. When Gase was gone, Saleh came in, was when I put my mentions back on, because it was like, okay, like this is like a new era, new coach, new quarterback. Like this is kind of going to be pretty fun. And at different points of like, I remember like the whole thing about the Jets searching for a quarterback is that there's always been like the diehard people to defend the quarterbacks through thick and thin. Like it was like that with Geno Smith. Like I remember that with Geno, where people were defending Geno until the bitter end, right? Same thing with Christian Hackenberg. People were defending him until the bitter end. We're too harsh on him. We're too critical on him. We have no idea what we're talking about. We're wrong. Just ridiculing us on Christian Hackenberg. Then with Sam, the same thing. It's, he doesn't have playmakers. It's not Sam's fault. It's Adam Gase's fault. He's fine. Didn't you see this throw? Didn't you see that throw? Blah, 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 blah. Ridicule, rip. So I've seen like people, it's known across all NFL fan bases, because, you turn on WFAN and you hear Giant fans call in. They're doing the exact same defense of Daniel Jones right now. And if you call into Miami, they're going to do the same defense of Tua. And it's like, it's the way that fans operate, that they are very, very, very defensive of the quarterback, wanting to believe that they have their franchise guy answered there. I will say that I've never, this loops in Gase, this loops in Darnold, this loops in Hackenberg, this loops in everything. I have never seen people so just angered and frustrated by you saying anything negative about Zach Wilson. And it's wild to me, because like I didn't really look at my mentions too much during the game, because like I was writing and working and things like that. But it was like I went back and I looked, and I thought, like, coming off of the game, I thought Zach Wilson played okay. Like I thought he had like a better game than he's had. Like he was better than he was the week before. There were moments where he was really, really good, which I tweeted about. Like that first drive that he had, it was surgical. I mean, he went down the field surgically and was as good as I've seen him operate in offense. Like I've seen him make better throws, case in point, against the Titans. I've seen him have better stretches, case in point, against the Eagles. But as far as one drive is concerned, just bang, 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 attack, surgically dicing up a defense. That first drive, where he went 5 for 5, 55 yards, Jets went 83 yards for a touchdown. That was as good as I've seen Zach Wilson quarterback a team for a drive. And I said that. And like, there were compliments thrown against this guy. There was that pass that he threw, the Keelan Cole drop, which was just an absolute laser beam in tight coverage with no separation. He found a hole that I didn't know existed, hit him in the hands, and he dropped it. Amazing throw. And so when Zach Wilson did all these positive things, like we pointed out all these positive things, that run that he made, the scrambling, the one where he made he made 6 players miss, technically 5 different players, but 6 guys missed because he made 1 player miss twice on his way to a first down 6-yard gain. All right. The commitment that he's had to running the ball more and sliding, where he should have picked up a first down, but Connor McDermott got flagged for a hold, got to the outside, went out of bounds. Like, all of these good things that he did. Spam Cleveland left me a voicemail, so I'm curious to see what that is. I'm telling you, it's Michael Dunn. He's mad about his PFF grade was 72.6. He thought it should have been 73 flat. It's very, very upset about it. Actually, he's gonna get mad that I talked about the guy who beat him on the first possession of the game before he settled in. He's gonna do it with Darren Lee.
Michael is his harshest critic. Like, you don't have to. We already watched the film last night. 2 a.m. and we're watching the film on the iPad. I'm like, can we go to sleep? Like, can we do this tomorrow? I got a podcast in the morning.
He
got the iPad,
Darren Lee,
this close to his face.
So he's the anti Darren Lee. Darren Lee was the guy who used to you get in the locker room, and I would have tweeted if Rob Gronkowski beat Darren Lee for a 5-yard pass, bullshit tweet. And as soon as I get in the locker room, Darren's calling me over. That wasn't my fault. I didn't get beat on that one. So he's the anti Lee. But yeah, so everything that Wilson did, and I think he played, he made some progress. He took some steps. It wasn't a great game though. It wasn't he was again, he was still under 60% completion percentage. He still would have been if he threw in he still made some bad decisions. There were times where he hitched and he held the ball too long, where he's got to either throw at the ball, dirt it, or just not take the sack. There were plenty of those examples, right? So I kind of you write. It's a very common, you write the positives, then you write the negatives. But I think what was wild was when I went back and I happened to look at my Twitter because I wanted to go find that tweet about the scoreboard proposal, and I see the ratio on the first negative tweet that I sent on Zach Wilson. And it was as simple as Zach Wilson needs to have a little bit better pocket presence and feel the pocket collapsing in on him because he took the sack and the fumble and the Dolphins recovered it. And to go from that to then go into my mentions and see literal death threats over saying that, I was like, holy shit. So obviously I reported that stuff to Twitter because you obviously can't take that stuff not seriously. And I had to contact my boss and my editor and be like, hey, just so you know, this happened to me. Our head of security or whatever they are contacted me hey, so what did you do to warrant the death threat? What happened? He thought did I go political on somebody? Did I make a remark that I shouldn't have that enticed somebody to be I'm going to kill you? So I copied the tweet and sent it to him, and he there was a long pause, and he's like, that seems a little harsh of a reaction to that one. I was like, yeah, you think? I was like, but I've never seen, honestly, and this goes back to Hack, this goes back to Gino, this goes back to Sam. I've never seen any criticism. You cannot criticize Zach. You cannot criticize him at all. You can't say anything negative about this guy without having your head ripped off and thrown back at you and criticized for doing your job, told you suck at your job, you don't know football, this is why we hate you, or have literal death threats sent on you because you criticize him in any way, shape, or form. And I didn't say he sucked. I didn't say he was bad. I didn't say he was awful. I pointed out 2 aspects of his game that weren't that great in a game that wasn't that amazing. Again, the guy didn't throw for 200 yards. He didn't throw for a touchdown. The Jets only scored 17 points on offense. It wasn't a great game. So he had really good moments. He had times where he looked really good. He had other times where he didn't. And we pointed out the good and we pointed out the bad. And it's become so vicious and so vile and so at times disgusting that it's what are we doing here? And the column that I wrote, and it got Zach's going to be this team's quarterback next year. The Jets are not going to Josh Rosen him in any way, shape, or form. He's going to be this team's quarterback. He's going to be their starter next year. They're still going to try to invest talent and playmakers all around him to make him a better quarterback and help him reach his franchise potential. Joe Douglas still believes in him. Mike LaFleur still believes in him. Robert Saleh still believes in him. Everyone still believes in this kid. He's not going anywhere. But right now, he's dealing with the ups and downs of being a quarterback. And we point out the ups and we point out the downs. And the one thing that I will say, and the point of my post-game column, and it's something that I stand by, is that right now, and it's related to that feeling, right? taking a gander down the mentions and seeing how this fan base is reacting to any negative praise of Wilson. And I will say, like, there's also a chunk of this fan base who are ready to write the kid off, like, that are like, no, he sucks, he's done. I mean, I read my last story, like, not this column. I wrote a story last week, and there were back-to-back columns on The Athletic, and one was ripping me apart for not knowing anything about quarterbacks and how dare I criticize him? Don't I understand he's a rookie? He played great, like that. They're just eviscerating me in every way, shape, or form to start. The comment directly underneath it was, I really think we need to consider doing what the Arizona Cardinals did and trading Zach and moving on and drafting another quarterback this year. Like, so that's how polarizing it is in the comment section. You know how it is out there in Twitterverse, which is where it's vile anyway. But I think the reasoning for that is that there is very little to feel very good about the Jets right now, if you think about it, right? I mean, they have 3 wins this year. They are 1 win better. If they lose to the Jaguars, because they're not beating the Bucs or the Bills, if they lose to the Jaguars on Sunday, which is possible, they're going to finish this season with 1 more win than they did last year with Adam Gase. The year where they were going to go 0-16, the year where they weren't going to win a game, the year where it was the worst coaching staff and roster assembled. They're going to win 1 more game, right? That's 1 more game than they had with Gase, 1 more game than they had with Darnold, 1 more game they've won despite Joe Douglas having an entire offseason and another massive cache of draft picks to make this roster better. They've won 1 more game. Since week 1 of last year, when the Jets began their 0-16 escapade on the, I don't even know if I said that word right, on their way to the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. Totally lost my train of thought. Oh, since week 1 of last year, they are 5-25. That is horrific. And Joe Douglas has had a 2020, a 2021. I'm sorry, the Jets should be better. Like, if that 2020 draft class was any better, this team would be better. But, I mean, they whiffed basically on Mekhi Becton right now, who hasn't played. They clearly whiffed on Denzel Mims. Perine can't get on the field. Morgan can't get on the field. Davis is on the field, but you don't want him on the field. Zuniga can't get on the field. Braden Mann and Bryce Hall are the only saving graces of that draft class. Bryce Hall looks like a pretty good number 2 corner, and Braden Mann actually has some questions. I chalk some of it up to the knee sprain that he had, but like Bryce Hall is dealing with issues, or not Bryce Hall, I'm sorry. Braden Mann's dealing with issues now too. So the Jets are going on right now an 11-year playoff drought. That's bad. Really bad. It's the worst in the NFL. Every single other team, all 31 other teams have played a playoff game since the Jets' last playoff game, except for the Jets. 5-25 since week 1 of last year. Your defense is a disaster. You're having to cling to series, throws, quarters to justify that your quarterback is going to be a franchise quarterback. And that's it. And some of the players you are excited about, Carl Lawson, injured reserve, Corey Davis, injured reserve, Elijah Moore, injured reserve. All right? It's embarrassing right now to be a Jet fan. It is. Like, you can't wear your Jet jersey anywhere right now without being made fun of. It's true. If you wear a Zach Wilson jersey out in public right now, unless you're with other Jet fans, you're going to get made fun of. If you wear a Jets shirt, people are going to come up and say, I'm sorry. I'm not kidding you when I say I went through customs when the Jets played the Falcons in Philadelphia, right? Because I fly in and out of Philly. I went through customs. The custom agent takes my passport and he goes, what were you doing in the UK? I was like, I cover the Jets. I was there for the Jets. I covered the Jets for the Athletic. I was there for their game against the Falcons. The guy goes from looking at my passport to looking up at me, looking down at my passport, looking back up at me, shaking his head, handing my passport back, and says, I'm so sorry. I cover the team. Like, I'm getting paid to watch this. And this guy, this customs agent, is saying, I'm sorry. Like, that's what Jet fans have had to deal with excessively since the Adam Gase era in 2019. But you can go back even further for the last 11 years of not making the playoffs. Like, that adds to frustration. Every year you're like, okay, this is going to be a little better. Okay, we're going to get a little bit better. Okay, this is going to be a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And the little bit better that this year, finally excitement, young quarterback, new coach, Robert Saleh, all gas, all breaks. Zach Wilson, so exciting, improvising. And there's a chance you end this season with 1 more win than you had with Adam Gase when you were tanking. 1 more win. Like, that takes its toll. It takes a toll on a person. It takes a toll on fans. It takes its toll on media who got to deal with this all day. So I understand and get why there is like, do not give us any negative. We have to have every semblance of positivity because it needs to make us feel better. We need that positivity. We need it. We need it. We cannot handle any more negativity. Give us the positives. I get that. Unfortunately, if the Jets lose to the Jaguars, lose out, Zach Wilson keeps playing like he has, where you're just clinging to individual throws, individual series, quarters, halves, not even a complete good game from start to finish, but moments of each game. None of that's going to change. What can change it, though, and this was the point of my post-game column, and it does not impact Zach Wilson's future. It does not mean these final 3 games are going to say if Zach Wilson's a franchise quarterback or not. It does not mean if these final 3 games are going to be if the Jets move on from Zach Wilson after this year, which they are not, or draft another quarterback, which they are not. None of that. It does not impact any of that. But it can change the overall public outlook of this team. It can bring back some pride to this fan base. It can change the narrative slightly if Zach Wilson against the Jaguars, against the Bucks, and against the Bills plays really well. If he throws for 280 to 300 yards in each of those games, if he's throwing 2 or 3 touchdowns in each of those games, if he's avoiding the turnover, if he, even against the Bucks, who are a far superior team, against the Bills, who are a far superior team, if he keeps those games with 1 possession into the fourth quarter, if against the Jaguars, a team that's probably from a talent perspective on line with the Jets, if he beats them and plays really well and outplays Trevor Lawrence, if he outduels Trevor Lawrence, it starts to change that narrative. Because when it comes to quarterback play, there is a recency bias across the league. Zach Wilson having a strong final 3 games will erase everything he did the first 15 games of the season. 15 weeks of the season, I'm sorry. It will erase all of that because all people will be talking about is how he outdueled Trevor Lawrence, right? And the Jaguars. All people will be talking about is how he went toe-to-toe with Brady. All people will be talking about how the Bills, the cream of the crop in the AFC, perceived to be the cream of the crop in the AFC going into this game. Zach Wilson kept things tight with these guys around him, this offensive line, these playmakers, no Corey Davis, potentially no Elijah Moore. He kept things close enough with these guys that imagine what happens after he has another free agency of signing players, another draft of adding talent around him. Imagine what he can do. You can change the narrative. You can change the public perception of these last 3 games. And suddenly when you wear your Zach Wilson jersey out there, people won't be talking about the interception he threw off the ass of a player in Houston. They'll be talking about those final 3 games. They won't be making fun of you for wearing a Zach Wilson jersey in public. They'll be saying, man, you know what? The Jets probably got the better player than Trevor Lawrence. You see how much better he played against the Jaguars than Trevor did? It'll change that perception. It'll add good feels. It'll infuse this success-starved franchise with optimism. And that's what the point of my column was that like Zach holds the key over these next 3 weeks to change the narrative. That if he plays well these final 3 weeks, very similar to how Sam Darnold played in 2018, he will change the narrative of this roster. He'll change the narrative of this team. He'll make things different. And the comparison, again, is Sam Darnold in 2018. He was dreadful. He threw more touchdowns than Zach did, but he also threw more interceptions his first 9 starts. He was awful. Jets didn't win. He was bad. Hurts his foot against the Dolphins in the Hard Rock, which is the House of Horrors for New York. Hurt his foot, misses 4 games. He comes back. He's completing over 65% of his passes, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, 99 quarterback rating. The Jets only won 1 game in that 4-game stretch, but they played it tight against the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. They played it tight against the playoff-bound Houston Texans. They were blown out by the Patriots, but it didn't matter because the other 3 games showed something. The Jets went into the 2019 offseason, or the 2019 year, 2018 offseason, after the 2018 season, what I'm saying. I'm getting all my years mixed up. After Sam's rookie year, they went into that free agency and draft with the feeling that they had their franchise quarterback. I wrote in my lead, I was sitting there with Dow Loggins in the lobby of the JW Marriott. When he turns around and he's talking about getting the Jets job as their offensive coordinator, him and Adam Gase, he goes, man, we have effing Sam Darnold. That's what Sam's final 4 games did. Sam was awful the first 9 weeks, but those final 4 games had it to where all of the Jets staff were in Indianapolis boasting out their chest, saying, dude, we got Sam effing Darnold. That's how those 4 games changed the complexion. And suddenly the Jets were a desirable destination because they had Sam. They got a new coaching staff. They got a bunch of money. They got a bunch of draft picks. There was optimism around that team. It was false. It was misguided because Sam turned it out to be a bust. It was the same. He's been the same bust in Carolina that he's been in New York. But for like that little bit of time, you were proud to be a Jet fan again. Yeah, it didn't work out, but you were proud. And you were proud because of those final 4 games. Zach has the ability to do something very, very similar this year. If he plays well these final 3 weeks, they're going into next year proud. The Jets are going to be at the Combine this year. Saleh, LaFleur, buffing out their chest. We got Zach Wilson. Didn't you see how he closed the season? Didn't you see how much better he got? Fans are going to be happy to wear Jets jerseys again. There's going to be optimism. It's going to make the Jets a desirable destination because free agent and draft picks are going to want to play with Zach. Right now, when you're hanging as a Jet fan to individual throws, individual quarters, individual series, that's it. Not yet even a complete game. That's not enough to make anyone other than Jet fans feel good. But if Zach plays well these final 3 games, he can change the narrative and complexion of this team. And that would be so, so important for a franchise that has been a laughingstock for so, so long. There are jokes made about the Jets on Ted Lasso. There's jokes made about the Jets on SNL. That's not good. That shows you are a laughingstock and a joke. But you can change it these final 3 weeks. And the way you change it these final 3 weeks is with number 2, under center. He plays well these final 3 games, and the complexion and narrative of the Jets changes. And that would be so important for this franchise.
And this next game, I think, as far as narrative, is going to go so far because it's against Trevor Lawrence. And you look at the numbers so far between these two guys. Wilson, 10 games, Lawrence, 14 games because of the injury. But the passing percentages, Wilson, 56.2%, Lawrence, 58.1%, both under 60. Wilson, 1,900 yards, a little over. Lawrence, just under 3,000 yards. The touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 11 picks for Wilson, 9 touchdowns, 14 picks for Lawrence. And then the rating, 66.4 for Wilson, 69.3 for Lawrence. They're really similar. They're both on. And the thing that's different between these guys versus Mac Jones, the rookie that's played better, and other rookies, is these guys are both playing for just terrible teams they don't have the stuff around them. The difference, though, that's weird going into this week's game, Connor, is that the Jets, we know, are a bad football team. The Jaguars, though, are the dumpster fire, right? Like, they're the team that just fired the coach because of all the embarrassing moments over the course of the year. They're the team that can't get out of its own way, whereas the Jets are just bad on the field. Yeah. And so this game is really fascinating to me because if the Jets were to lose this game, it would improve their draft stock, right? They're number 4 right now.
They could go up to number 2 with it.
Yeah, and Jacksonville's back in that number 1 spot. They could move up to 2, but they already have their quarterback. Versus on the other side of it, you win the game and you beat a team that's seen right now as worse. So to me, forget the draft stuff. You have to win this game because if you don't win this game against the dumpster fire of the NFL, you once again become that. And they can't do that, in my opinion. They can't be the team that, they lost to Jacksonville too. Oh man.
I think you're right, but I think it's also if they were to lose, how would they lose? I mean, Hutchinson, Michigan, Thibodeau, Oregon, neither of those guys, from what I've talked to some scouts and some coaches and things like that. From what I understand, neither of those guys are like the Bosa brothers. Neither of those guys are like Chase Young, but they are in that like upper echelon of dynamic pass rushers. Like that's what they're considered. Now you're not the Bosa brothers and Young were just different. They were a different breed. These guys are not that good, but they're really, 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 really freaking good. I mean, they're double-digit sack potential players. Like they are dominant. They are potential like edge-setting, game-changing, perennial Pro Bowl players up front. They're going to go 1 and 2 in some variation because it looks like the top 3 teams are all going to be like, there's no quarterback worthy of a number 1 pick. There's just not. So they're going to be within contention there. For the Jets to get one of those number 1 or number 2 picks, assuming everyone else loses out because what is it? It's the NFL. What is the NFL draft order right here? So right now it's Jacksonville 1, Detroit 2, Houston 3, Jets 4. Jacksonville's 2-12, Detroit's 2-11-1, Houston 3-11, Jets are 3-11. The reason why the Jets are picking 4 and not 3 with the Texans is because the Texans have a strength of schedule of 0.496. The Jets have one of 0.502. That's 0.004 difference. That can literally change with like 2 games on each team's schedule. So that is going to be you have to watch it at on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whenever these NFL technical weeks end. You just have to recheck to see what the updated strength of schedule is to see how things adjust and things move, because that could easily change at a moment's notice. But if the Jets lose to the Jaguars, assuming the Lions lose out and the Texans lose out, the Jets can go up to the number 2 pick in the draft if the Texans' strength of schedule evens out where the Jets get the advantage there, right? the Jets could technically move up to number 1 if the Lions find a way to win a game, the Texans win another game, the Jets lose to the Jaguars, and the Jaguars lose out. So number 1 is possible. I think number 2 is very possible because all it's going to come down to if the Jets lose to the Jaguars is a strength of schedule, which is going to be a coin flip. In my opinion, I'm with you. A win and looking really, really good, and Zach Wilson tearing it up, even if it is just the Jaguars. Zach Wilson throwing for 350, 3 touchdowns, looking really good, and the Jets winning this one 31-21 or 31-17 or 31-10 or even 31-28 is really, it would be a big boost because it would be like, you know what? Everything that you've wanted to see about Zach Wilson, you've seen about Zach Wilson. Everything you wanted to see from this offense taking a step forward, you wanted to see him. And it also goes the sub storyline of Zach Wilson versus Trevor Lawrence. Zach Wilson goes up 1-0 on Trevor Lawrence. Zach Wilson beat Trevor Lawrence. Like that will mean something and it will carry some weight and it'll be a feather to put in your hat and something to feel good about. However, if the Jets lose this game, I don't think it's the be-all, end-all, oh my God, the sky is falling, depending on how they lose the game. If they get blown out and they lose this one 28-6, if they lose this one 31-10, and Zach throws for 150 yards, 1 touchdown or no touchdowns, a bunch of turnovers, again, his completion percentage is under 60, Trevor Lawrence looks good, and the Jets are blown out of the building, yeah, that's going to look bad. Because the Jaguars are a dumpster fire. The Jaguars are a bad team. And again, that will set the Jets up to finish this season with 1 more win than they did last year. And they played 1 additional game this year with a generally weaker schedule. I think you can make that argument that the Jets, for the Jets to win just 3 games this year after 2 games last year, that's really bad. I don't care injuries. I don't care coaching. I don't care players. I don't care rookie quarterback. That's really bad if you finish with just 3 wins. However, if the Jets lose this game, but it's a shootout, or they lose this game 31-28, if they lose this game 28-27, if they lose this game 34-31, and Zach still looks really, really good and goes toe-to-toe with Trevor Lawrence and in some ways outplays him, the offense is going back and forth and they're trading blows and they're trading shots and Zach looks really, really good against this team, but the Jets still lose by 3 points because their defense is really bad and they can't stop James Robinson and Lawrence hits him for a couple deep passes. I don't think that's like end of the world. Oh my God, the Jets actually lost, because all you'll be talking about coming out of that game, you won't be talking about the final score. You won't be talking about the Jets defense. You'll be talking about how Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson went toe-to-toe and dueled with each other and both looked really, really good. And that situation, that case is actually probably, from a long-term perspective, down the road perspective, that's probably the best case scenario for the Jets because you still get everything you want to see out of Zach Wilson. You still lose and you still move up in the draft order to potentially number 2 where Thibodeau or Hutchinson could be waiting for you. So I think that's probably, from a long-term football perspective, a really, really good outcome. And then obviously Zach Wilson looking really, really good and tearing it up against the Jaguars and leading the Jets to a victory over Trevor Lawrence. That's the best possible outcome. I think the worst of all worst outcomes is the Jets win this game like 10-6. Trevor Lawrence looks awful. Zach Wilson looks awful. The Jets win and ruin their draft hopes too. Like that would be like the worst case scenario. But as long as Zach Wilson looks really, really, really good, win or loss, the Jets can take victory out of this. They can take solace out of this. They'll take we lost, but our rookie quarterback looked really freaking good against the number 1 pick in the draft. Our draft position improved. Zach Wilson had his best game of the season. We're good with that. Or the Jets win the game and Zach Wilson looks really good. It's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe you don't get the 2 defensive linemen, but Stingley's still there. Hamilton could still be there. We could trade back and get even more draft picks. Like there's more options there as well. So I don't think a loss is a be all and end all. Or I don't think it's like this. Like I said, sky is falling if they lose. It just depends on how they potentially lose, how they lose.
The other interesting thing as far as the draft goes is tonight the Seahawks are back on the field. The other team you like to root against as a Jets fan, number 8 right now as far as draft order goes, but playing at the Rams, probably a loss for Seattle. That helps out the Jets as well. All right, we are not going to have a second episode this week.
Is it Christmas?
Yes. I was like, what did he say? Yes, because of Christmas Eve on Friday. But we will be back with you with a recap of whatever this Jets-Jaguars game becomes early on next week. If you celebrate Christmas, hope you enjoy it over the weekend. If not, just enjoy. Hopefully you have some time off from work anyway. And we will be back with you early next week with that full recap. Thanks for tuning into the Can't Wait podcast. Go to theathletic.com/can't wait to save 33% off a subscription to The Athletic. Talk to everybody soon.